Hi, Jeff. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And would love to dive straight into the first question. What is your life story until today?
I'll kind of keep this kind of short. So I'm born and raised in Singapore. Sort of pretty much Singaporean for a while. I think probably till I was 20. I did my armed service, and then I went to school in LA at USC. So I was mostly in the business school doing information systems and a lot of database stuff. And after that, I did some IT related consulting with a Big Four in LA and Mountain View before coming back to Singapore. And when I first came back, I wanted to try the venture capital business. So I joined a public listed company and helped them set up a fund internally and start learning from scratch and that kind of thing. So that took me probably 4 years. And then I did private equity in China. So I moved to Shanghai and, I bounced around. And then I landed myself in Dubai doing some consulting and consulting work for various government entities. And then in 2010, I brought the Founder Institute chapter to Asia. So at that time, I think Singapore was the first city. I think it was the fifth city overall, first city in Asia. So I kind of helped them expand in Southeast Asia, help them select some directors around the region. And that's how I got back into the startup scene again. And then probably within 18 months, I started a fund, right? So we started a fund. So I met my co-founder, Vinny, while he was backpacking in Asia. And I kind of looped him into the Founder Institute network so that the various chapters can fly him around to mentor. So by the end of 2011, we started Golden Gate Ventures. Primarily just that we can support the teams that we met on the ground, and also the mentors in the different cities. Some of them are actually repeat entrepreneurs, so some of them are pretty good as well. So at that time, there weren't many organized capital. So we thought, that there's a gap here. So fast forward to today, we are investing from fund number 4. We've been around for a while now. We have, I guess, 4 offices, 3 in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Jakarta, Ho Chi Minh City. And we just launched one in Doha, Qatar, with a separate new MENA fund. And we are doing a little bit of stuff in AI in the US, which is not public yet, but it will come public in a few months. Yeah, so that's my story.
At least from a third person's perspective, it sounds like it's full of very impressive achievements. On the other hand, I do feel like this nonlinear path, there are certain moments or certain experiences that obviously led to who you are or where you are today. On the flip side, has there been any regret in that journey? Or in other words, what is your biggest regret to date?
Good question. I think back in my time, there weren't. When I went to college, Google hasn't really started yet. Right, I was using Alta Vista, and then Google started hitting probably like 98, I believe, 97, 98. Yeah, so I think if you look backwards, I would say surround yourself with people who have done things and people who know things. And obviously, without the internet, it's slightly harder, right? So you need to. So if you look all the way backwards, it would be things like what primary school I should go to, how I should be preparing my exams. Now it's pretty, all this information is everywhere. Back in those days, you don't know. So the disparity is pretty large, right? So if you come from a family that has done well, you will probably do well. If you come from a family that knows certain things, you will probably get better at certain things. So to me, there's no regrets. It's just that you look backwards, okay, there are things that we could all have done better only if we know enough people, not even enough information. Sometimes it's the people point you to the information, or the people already have the information. Right? They'll share with you. So I think back in those days, I think having mentors, having family friends that knows a lot more than your parents, that will actually do help a lot. And then everything else, yeah, that's not much, right? Like I should have done computer science. I'm doing it right now, so it's fine. And it changes every 2-3 years anyway. So I could have done my MBA earlier, which I don't regret either. So I could have stayed in China for longer and kind of enjoy the tech boom. But I don't regret that. So I think all the moves are kind of calculated, but not to a point where I have a huge ambition and then I tried calculating it. The problem is you have ambition, but you don't really know what that is. And then you don't really know how to get there anyway. So you kind of like do what you can, you do survive as you go. And then whatever comes your way, you either push it more and take risk, or you play safe, right? But I think along the way, I would say it's almost fated. Most things are fated. The people that come through your life is fated, and things sometimes just fall in place. I think, yeah, I'm not sure about your beliefs in certain things, but for me, yeah, certain things are sometimes it's already set for you. So sometimes you have ups and downs, and then sometimes things just fall in place for some odd reason. So as long as you keep your eyes open, you will actually see it. So most people they don't see it because their life is too rushed, um, and it just blink of an eye. A few months gone by, a few years gone by, you don't really know what happened. But if you stop and see, you stop and feel, you stop and look around, many things are kind of plan out for you.
Interesting take. We obviously operate in an industry full of very strong free will or strong agency. I do think we need some level of frustration or dissatisfaction with the status quo to want to start companies or to want to join an early stage company or to invest in those. But I do agree that a lot of the things in life are predetermined, or the other way around. A lot of the successes and failures in life can be attributed to some form of environmental factor. Now, then the question is, how do we separate those that are within our control, that we should obviously double down to, then perhaps even dent the predetermined trajectory, at the same time accept that some things are already shaped by the environment and therefore you have no control over?
Yeah, so it all depends on your belief, right? So some people believe if you work hard, you'll be fine. Some people believe everything about what you are is luck. So if you have environment that helps you out, is luck, right? It's based on who you're born to, where you're born, and how you grew up, who they are, and you were healthy, right? And everything you can kind of point to luck. You can also say there are certain people that are just lucky, right? I think you've met people like this where everything they touch is gold. Sometimes you don't know why. They even don't know why. And then sometimes there is a lull. There is a lull period, and then they exploded. So there's always like a tipping point. And then there are people who, no matter what they do, they're not lucky. So I would say whether you are hardworking or not is already, you are born like that already. Whether somebody nudge you, you nudge yourself, it's already determined. I mean, if you think really backwards, so there is no, you don't have to worry that I did my best and then I didn't make it. You just make sure that, okay, my lucky streak is not here yet, and things happen, timing was wrong, etc., etc., and then you just keep going. Now, if you are the type that don't keep going, then you're born like that. And then you met people who don't do anything and they still do fine. Right? They're like extremely not hardworking, not hardworking at all, and they're fine. So like you see people, they don't smoke and then they get lung cancer, and then you see like 90-year-olds that smoke for 50 years and they're fine. So sometimes it's very, like you don't really know. Sometimes it's DNA, and DNA is, you're born like that, so it's your luck again. So to me, I would say, yeah, I, I don't think many people talk about this, but I believe I believe it's luck, right? Everything that you see is luck. So sometimes when I try to predict which founder is going to be good, I will ask them a question: have you been lucky all your life? right? No VC asked that question. But if you truly believe this, then you be like asking them, like, and then they might tell you, oh yeah, since high school, for some reason, I'm lucky. For some reason, I didn't study and I got A's. Uh, you know, my essays were trash and I got into Stanford. Whatever, you'll see different things. And then, for example, oh, I chose to join my friend at a startup and then they became $10 billion, right? Like there's no rhyme, no reason sometimes. But so that means what? You need to realize there's ups and downs. You need to realize your timing may not be right, right? So you might be in a lull. The lucky streak will come. So just keep working at it. Just keep work at it, and obviously prepare yourself, right? So amass the knowledge so that when things come, you are able to take advantage of it.
That's definitely not a question I've ever asked, taking notes. I'm actually rather unlucky, but I've been very lucky in life to surround myself with lucky people for some reason. I don't know if you actually count that as a proxy
Yes,
luck.
it is.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that this depends on your belief or our belief. Looking back at your career, is there any belief or principle that you've since changed your mind on?
I would say your ability to judge resilience is actually quite hard. So if you're trying to judge a character trait that is not as good, then the belief is very hard to change, right? People tend not to change. So if you find a red flag, then chances are the red flag will remain for a while. Maybe the second company will still be the same, third company will still be the same. So that is pretty straightforward. But trying to judge how strong their resilience is in the first year of operation, you can't really tell, unless you work with them before, unless they've started companies before, unless they really describe it. Because when you are down to nothing and you are cornered in a you're kind of like forced into a corner. Yeah, it's a human condition that you don't really understand unless you've been there. And even if you've been there, you cannot tell whether somebody that have been there, they know how to get out of it, right? So you can't really tell whether somebody's like you, assuming you have gotten out of it before. Yeah. So that is the part that is harder to read. And if you are able to read, then chances are you're going to be wrong, because that's very hard to read. So that means there will be founders that will surprise you, right? So you think they're gonna fall, and then all of a sudden they'll surprise you, because you can't read them that well, and that's pretty common because the extreme up and downs you can't really tell until you actually know it and see it in front of you. But other than that, I think not really. I think humans are humans. Some people, most of our founders are first timers, so yeah, some are overly confident, which is quite common because entrepreneurs, you have to be like that sometimes. Then some are super coachable. They kind of know their weaknesses and they seek to improve. Many don't. Many assume they are fine. That kind of things, right? So over time, you will slowly understand uh, the layers, right? How many layers they have? Are they peeling it off to show you, or are they not peeling it off to show you? And then over the interaction, you kind of know, right? Okay, this person has too many layers. They're not telling me the truth or not showing me what I want to see. So then it just takes time to understand them. Takes time to read them. But at the end of the day, yeah, it is a people business. But I think it's a little bit more than that. I think in our world, in emerging markets, at least in Southeast Asia, like me, there are more things to consider when you invest than the team or the founders. There's also timing. There's also market size. There's also every other potential risk that is going to be in front of you. And there's a reason why, because you are likely going to be building something that is similar to something else, right? Most startups here are copycats. So you should know what you should be doing. You should know your market size. You should know your competition fairly well because they already existed. Right? So that is slightly different, right? From the founders who are more renegades, more rebels. They have green hair, blue hair. They are high school dropouts. but they can code for some reason, and then they want to build something that changed the world. We don't see those kind of founders here, and those founders are probably like in the early 2000s, right? The guys that built Twitter, for example, those guys. So we don't have many of those around, at least probably outside of a few cities. But generally, most founders are very, sometimes you can call it quite typical, but man, but that's the thing, right? So yeah, over time we kind of learn.
What do you think that is in Asia? Is this a cultural thing or maturity of ecosystem?
Yeah, I would say it's cultural. Yeah, it's cultural. It's risk taking, right? It's a perception of risk taking, but that's okay, right? I think we kind of know that because we're from here, so we kind of know if you are this mold, then we kind of know that okay, you may have a very different background than most people. You may have a very different personality than most people because you tend to stand out, right? Especially in Japan, obviously. In Singapore, probably too. Yeah, I think it's cultural, but there's nothing wrong or right? But obviously, there are different kinds of founders, and every founder is fine, right? There's no. It's just that the types, the diversity is a little bit different in different countries.
You've been an outspoken advocate on the need to deal with mental health of founders. I do think founders themselves, as well as those who work in startups or who invest in startups like ourselves, we can perhaps do a little bit more to obviously encourage those social and therefore economical outliers to work on startups, at the same time making sure that in the process they're not burnt. Is there anything besides Mosheri method or coaching your founders that you have seen effective for their mental health?
I would say the first thing is whichever community, I think whichever founder community, it doesn't matter which country you're from, I think we all face the same thing. There might be taboos, right? Maybe in Japan, maybe in India, there might be taboos about certain things, but everybody faces it. So the things that work is usually a group of founders kind of coming together fairly often to share their ups and downs. And if as many founders know that having mental health issues as a founder is normal, not a taboo, but normal, that will help already. The first thing is they have to acknowledge it is normal. The second thing is they need to figure out a way to combat it. How do I manage stress? How do I do, yeah. So you have to first realize that it is normal. And then second thing, okay, let's try to figure out how to make it better. I think most founders who are not clear, they don't think it's normal. They think something wrong with me. And if other founders don't share that they face the same thing, then you don't know it's normal. You always think, oh, everyone's fine, everyone's happy, everyone's, you know. But how come I'm the only one that feels like that? How come I can't sleep at Saturday nights? How come I get anxious on Sunday nights when my email box is zero. So as long as they feel something and they know that it's normal, almost I would say 60-70% of founders have the same thing. It's just that nobody says that. So as long as everybody knows that, then what will happen is organically they will come together and help each other. And then those who seek help outside, they would share what they have received and then share with the others. Or sometimes there's self remedies and they do something and oh, this works, so maybe I'll share with you guys. So that kind of community led kind of thing. I think I often say this. That I think Chris Dixon said this before. There are two kinds of people in the world: founders and everybody else. And there's a reason founders are less than 3% of the whole world population. Founders have friends who are founders. That's actually a very good thing because most of your friends are not founders. So having that network and community to share ups and downs is a very good thing.
Along with mental health, I do feel like this current wave of AI is another potential threat or opportunity to the startup ecosystem. What is your big, or if any, controversial thought around the role of AI and how it may transform how we start, grow, build and invest in startups?
I think the first mentality is you need to be positive. This thing is not going to go away for the next at least 10 years. And then within 2 years, things will change quite drastically in different ways, right? But things will change and then it will kind of like stay changed. It will probably not go back anymore. So that means what? That means initially you might have anxiety, but you should break away from that. You should be thinking the other way. This is an opportunity. This is the next internet. What should I do? What can I learn so that I'm on top of it? And what else can I do to capture the opportunity, right? So if you feel excited, then you're on the right track. If you're excited, you feel like, oh, I can do this, I can build this, I have 10 different ideas I can build. There will be, a lot of products that are built by one guy now because everything can be coded automatically. So I can actually start 10 startups within 2 months. That's cool, right? In the past, like in the late 90s, you need to raise like 10 million to start a company. Now you don't need anything. You can start a company tomorrow. So those are good things to think about. Now, on the other side, if AI is coming or here or going or leading us to somewhere, then you should be on top of it, right? You should be learning how to code. You should be learning Python. You should be trying different APIs. You should be understanding how deep learning works, how neural networks work, what is computer vision like. Like you should be actually learning it, right? Now, yeah, everybody will say, yeah, like 80% of the code will be AI generated anyway. Yeah, but who generate the system to do the generation? The people who are AI trained, right? So in order for you to have less anxiety, you need to know this thing. For example, you need to be an AI engineer within 6 months. Figure it out. Go figure it out. You might need to take a second master's. Go do it. You might need to learn full stack software engineering. Go and do it. You might need to relearn linear algebra all over again because machine learning, you need math. No choice. Go and learn again. And take some time to kind of understand what's happening. Then obviously you will feel a little bit, well, I would think you will feel a lot less a lot less stressed out. And in reality, not many people understand this, right? So if you actually understand this, you're probably the top 1-2% around the world. So for example, most of your friends are not in tech. Most of your friends in tech cannot code. So imagine you are in tech and you can code. Imagine you are in tech and you can code and you understand how AI systems work. That's very, very rare. So you're already ahead of almost everybody. Probably 99, you're ahead of like 99% of people. So that will give you a little bit more room to breathe. And it may give you more excitement because you're learning new things that nobody knows. And you're researching things, you're reading research papers, you're trying weird GitHub repos, and you're doing side projects that is really, really cool. And you just keep going, right? And obviously you make mistakes. And then along the way, yes, you do try to find mentors who have done it before, try to ask questions, try to be on Twitter, try to be all over the place, right? Try to learn all kinds of things. So that's the only way I can recommend that everybody should be AI literate, right? At least you understand how a transformer works, how LLMs work. And obviously, trying to figure out the mathematical formula for gradient descent, that's a bit tricky. But you can still get that done, right? Within 1-2 months, you can still get it done if you want to get it done. And the math behind machine learning, it is quite difficult. So let me tell you first, it is quite difficult. But is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. You can figure it out. Right? So I think just be on top of it.
If we can extrapolate that AI literacy, two questions. One, would this lead to further inequality economically, socially, occupationally? Second, across geography, would it actually be far better to move to Silicon Valley and study AI coding and systems for 6 months versus in Asia, where people are perhaps more concerned about the risk aspect of AI than the literacy?
I would say on a very niche level, it will diverge, right? So the more AI you know, the more valuable you are, and you will diverge. But the rest of the industries are slowly catching up, right? They're probably like a year away, 2 years away before things are deployed live, right, in production. So that means they realize they have to upskill. They realize, and governments probably realize this, right? So that means you probably have more students going into computer science. You have executive education, on AI and that kind of thing. So things will be a little bit more. You may have like AI classes when you are 13 years old, right, as opposed to 17 years old. So things will change over time. In the immediate, like within 2-3 years, yeah, there will be a little bit of a divergence. And then for us, actually, no, I think studying AI, it's not that difficult, right? So we don't have to move to the valley to do it. You move to the valley or the US, maybe three reasons. One is a particular school is very good at some kind of a track. So the way they organize the courses are quite different. So that's one, because not all schools are like that. So for example, if you want to do robotics, you probably have to go to CMU or MIT. There's a reason why. So different schools have different tracks, and the way they conduct courses are a little bit different, not entirely different, but a little bit different. But if you want a general education, I think studying in Singapore is fine. Japan is fine. In fact, yeah, I think most countries do have those kind of programs, and you don't have to go too deep. Most updated courses, you don't find them in universities anyway. It's almost always online, right? So if you go to deeplearning.ai, most of them are pretty current. But if you go to university, they will probably teach you the more data science stuff, more machine learning stuff. They don't really have classes on LLMs at the moment. But on deep learning AI, you probably have like probably 10 classes on LLMs. So there's always a little bit of a lag. So that's not an issue. So the US is primarily because the courses are slightly different. But more importantly, it is your classmates that are different, and the opportunities for you to do internships and full-time jobs, that's different. And then your experience once you're a full-time whatnot, can be product manager, can be software engineer, can be AI researcher, that's also different, right? Because it compounds, right? Over there, your classes are different, so it compounds. Your classmates are different, it compounds. And then your internship, what you learn is different, because at internship you meet a group of people that are different. Then you compound again. Then your first 3 years of work, if you join a big tech or a startup, it's like 10 years of work here. So you have 4 years and 3. So your 7 years is like 15 years here. So that's the only difference. Now, can you get the same experience in other countries? Of course. But the density of the people around you, of a certain kind, the density of the startups that can teach you very, very different things is not as large as the US is. So if you want something that's more compounding, then the US makes more sense, because there's a lot more companies. It's probably 100 times more companies. And each company, the HQ is over there, which means they're going to hire way more than their subsidiaries here. So they are way more HQ, and then they hire way more people. So that is already compounding. So yes, you can be a software engineer at Google in Singapore, but it's different, right? The density is different. Some of the work is the same, but it's just the density of people. But there's nothing wrong. It's just you just have to realize the fact that and can we compete? Yes. I think right now I can see that I think amongst the best research papers in AI, many of them are from China. And they're not Chinese students studying in the US. They're Chinese students studying in China. And they're writing English papers. So that's a very interesting thing. And that is going to grow, right? Um, so, yeah, and then I've seen European students, PhDs, extremely good. I've seen Koreans, which is very good. Japanese as well. Yeah, I've seen, like, even Latin America, you see some very interesting papers. So things are a little bit more global, but I think that is kind of the trend. I would say, I think the recent numbers in Singapore, I just saw it a few days ago. I think our national universities faculty of arts and sciences, I think the enrollment dropped, but the engineering enrollment went up. I think computer science went up by a lot, but by and large, it's not a lot. But comparing to previous years, is higher. So in other words, the students are self-selecting. They know that in order to get a job for whatever career they want, yeah, there are certain majors I have to do. So that is not a complete trend for every single university, but some universities you can see the difference, the change in what students are studying.
This leads me to my last question. If you could go back and give yourself just one piece of advice, your younger self, but today, what would it be?
I think it's pretty common. I think you take more risks, right? Learn more things. So, for example, I would recommend everyone three things, right? Have a panel of mentors. So sometimes mentors are not with you for many years. Sometimes they come in and out. Sometimes they add value, and then after that they don't. So you have a group of them, right? 4 to 6 of them, and you kind of like rotate over time. So that's one. To learn how real estate works, and then learn how sort of personal finance work. So basically learn what private bankers do, and learn what real estate developers do, because these two are the assets that you will be touching your whole entire life. Learn how insurance work. So this is like financial literacy, right? So this is like
Not venture
basic.
capital,
No,
not private
no.
equity.
Stay safe, right? Learn those first, and then the last one is, if possible, always have a side project, side hustle, a side business. Try things on the side, because what things have taught us is nobody owes you anything, right? Your current company doesn't owe you the job either. Anything can happen. You didn't hire the seniors. You didn't hire your boss. So the company is not yours. At a certain point, when a company is very big, everybody's dispensable. So you cannot rely on anybody, which means you have to rely on yourself. The best advice is always have a side hustle, just in case something happens. Right? Sometimes it is out of your control. So focus on things you have control over. And if your side hustle turns into something big, then yeah, you can consider not to do something full time, right? You can do a few side hustles and then you can relax. But the side hustles gives you a glimpse into entrepreneurship. It is like an excuse for you to try stuff on someone's dime, right? Now, obviously, what I'm saying, yeah, you have to follow employment contract, blah blah blah, which is whatever country, whatever. But at the end of the day, contract is contract. They don't owe you anything. They are not going to say, I'm going to hire you for 10 years. Well, maybe some countries do, like Japan or Korea, but most countries don't, right? So you're left to fend for yourself. Yeah. So if you have that drive to, like, let me try something, might work, might not work, not sure. Maybe I'll just get a franchise and get my brother to run it, whatever, right? Let me resell this. Let me import and export this. Let me distribute this for like 6 months and see what happens. Let me buy Wagyu from Japan and sell it and see if I can make money. Whatever, right? Short term, long term, doesn't matter. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I have friends who are like, oh, let me do this trade of coal, right? I just do a shipment of coal and then let's see if I make money. Whatever, right? So if you want to try it, and obviously there is risk involved with everything, but that's how you learn, right? And sometimes you will lose money. That's how you learn. So that's why you have to surround yourself with mentors that kind of help you out along the way. Some things too good to be true. Check and double check, that kind of thing. Now, eventually, what happens? Eventually, When you get to a certain age, if you have enough capital, what usually happens is you invest in your friend's company. You might want to invest in private company, public company. Then you get a little bit savvy. So you have done stuff on the side, so you kind of know, okay, how do they make money? Are you sure they're going to make money? Like you're a lot more critical, a lot more street smart, and you're not in a bubble of being an employee for 25 years. And then the moment you want to start a company, you get lost. The moment your nephew wants money to start a restaurant, you get lost. And you don't know how to size up a business. Even though you have worked for a business for like 25 years, you still don't know how to size up a business. This is a bit weird, right? So these are things. Yeah, I think most people should kind of learn or get to learn, right? You don't have to rush it. You can kind of slowly get there, but don't forget you have to learn it.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeff.
You're
Very
welcome.
much appreciate it. I hope this is the first of so many more conversations to come. Thank you, Jeff.